You say yes when you mean no, and every time you do it, you lose a piece of yourself. You stay quiet to keep the peace, you smile to avoid conflict, and you show up for everyone. But you are slowly disappearing. This is not kindness. This is self-abandonment. And the worst part is this. People reward you for it. They call you reliable, easy, and good. But inside, you feel drained, resentful, and stuck. If you don't fix this, it won't explode. It will quietly ruin your life. Today, you cut the pattern. Today, you take your control back. There's a moment most people never talk about. You're sitting in your car, engine off, phone in your hand. You know you said yes to something you didn't want to do. Again, and for a few seconds, it's quiet. No one is asking anything from you. No one is watching. And that's when it hits. You don't feel generous. You don't feel kind. You feel tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep fixes. The kind that sits in your chest and makes everything feel heavier than it should be. Think about your last week. How many times did you agree just to avoid tension? How many times did you say it's fine when it wasn't? How many times did you swallow your opinion because it felt easier? Be honest, because this is where most people lie to themselves. On the outside, your life looks functional. You show up, you respond, and you handle things. You are the reliable one, the easy one, the one people count on. But inside, something is off. You feel stretched and pulled in too many directions, like your time doesn't belong to you anymore. And here's the strange part. No one forced you. No one held you down and made you say yes. You did it willingly. That's what makes it confusing. You start wondering if the problem is you, if maybe you're just bad at managing your time or too sensitive or not strong enough. But that's not what's happening. You're not weak. You're not broken. You've just been trained. Trained to avoid discomfort. Trained to keep the peace. Trained to earn approval. And it shows up in small, almost invisible moments. Someone asks for a favor. You feel that tightness in your body, but you ignore it. You laugh something off that actually bothered you. You tell yourself it's not a big deal. You check your phone before replying, rewriting the message in your head. Try to sound agreeable, easy, and low maintenance. Think about that. You're not just responding to people. You're managing how they feel about you all the time. And that is exhausting. This is why you feel drained even when your day doesn't look that busy. Because the real work isn't on your calendar. It's internal. Constant editing. Constant adjusting. Constant filtering. You are living in reaction mode. Not to reality, but to the fear of how people might react to you. And over time, something starts to happen. You lose clarity. You stop knowing what you actually want because you're so used to asking, what will keep things smooth? Instead of, what is actually right for me? That is the shift most people never notice. And that is the beginning of losing yourself, not in one big decision, but in 100 small ones. You don't wake up one day and decide to disappear. You fade out quietly, gradually, and politely. And the world rewards you for it. They call you helpful, kind, and easy to work with. But they don't see the cost because you don't show them. You keep it controlled and together, even when you feel resentful, even when you feel invisible. So let me ask you something. When was the last time you made a decision that was fully honest? No adjustment, no softening, no editing, just truth. If that question makes you pause, this is not a small issue. This is a pattern. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. This isn't about being nice. This is about losing control of your own life one yes at a time. Most people think this is about personality. They say, I'm just a nice person. I don't like conflict. I care about people. That sounds right, but it's not the truth. Because real kindness does not drain you like this. Real kindness does not make you feel invisible. Real kindness does not leave you resentful. So something else is happening, and it's smaller than you think, but more powerful than you realize. This is not kindness. This is conditioning. Somewhere early in your life, you learned a simple rule: approval equals safety. When people are happy with you, things feel calm, predictable, and safe. When they're not, you feel tension, distance, and risk. So your brain adapts. It starts scanning for signals: tone of voice, facial expression, silence. And without thinking, you adjust yourself. You soften your words, delay your needs, and shape your behavior to avoid friction. Not because you're weak, but because your brain is efficient. It found a shortcut. Say yes, avoid discomfort, get relief. That's the loop. And here's where it gets dangerous. That relief feels like the right decision. You avoided conflict, kept things smooth, and stayed liked. So your brain rewards it with a small dopamine release and a sense of safety, locking the pattern in again and again. Over time, this becomes automatic. You don't think, should I betray myself right now? You just feel pressure and you respond fast, before your real opinion even shows up. Think about that. How many times have you answered before you even checked how you feel? That's not choice, that's programming. And the more you repeat it, the faster it gets. Until one day, you're not deciding anymore, you're reacting. This is why you feel disconnected from yourself. Because your internal signal gets ignored every time. Your body says no, your mouth says yes, your energy drops, but your behavior continues. That gap is where the damage happens. Not dramatic, just daily. And here's the part most people miss. Every time you override yourself, your brain learns that your needs are optional, your boundaries are flexible, and your comfort comes last. That is not neutral. That is training. You are training yourself to not trust yourself. Let that sink in. Because once self-trust starts breaking, everything gets harder. Decisions feel heavier, clarity disappears, and confidence drops. Not because you don't know what to do, but because you've stopped listening to the part of you that knows. And now you need something external to guide you. Approval, validation, and permission. That is the trap. You think you are being good, but what you are actually doing is outsourcing your identity piece by piece. You let other people decide what is acceptable for you, what is too much, what is enough, and what is allowed. And slowly, you become easier to manage, easier to influence, and easier to overlook. Not because people are evil, but because you never show resistance or create friction. So the system adapts around you. People expect your yes, rely on your flexibility, and assume your silence means agreement. And why wouldn't they? You train them. That's the hard truth. This is not just about how others treat you. This is about what you repeatedly allow and reinforce. So now ask yourself something. When you say yes, what are you actually avoiding? Is it conflict, rejection, or the feeling of being misunderstood? Or is it something deeper? The fear that if you stop performing, people will stop valuing you. That fear runs deeper than logic. And until you see it clearly, you will keep choosing comfort over honesty, relief over truth, and approval over self-respect. That is the real problem. Not that you care about people, but that you abandon yourself in the process. There's a simple idea that most people hear, but very few actually understand. The courage to be disliked. At first, it sounds harsh, almost wrong. Why would anyone want to be disliked? But look closer. It's not about pushing people away, being rude, or becoming cold. It's about something much more precise. It's about no longer editing yourself just to stay accepted. This idea comes from a branch of psychology that says most of your stress does not come from reality. It comes from trying to control how other people see you. Think about that. Not your work, schedule, or responsibilities. Your stress comes from managing perception, how you sound, how you come across, and whether they approve. That is the hidden weight. Now imagine two people. Same job, same environment, same demands. The first person says yes to everything, stays late, takes on extra work, and avoids disagreement. They are liked, but inside, they are constantly tense, calculating and adjusting. They go home exhausted, not just physically, but mentally, because they never stop performing. Now, the second person, they still do their job well, show respect, and contribute, but they have a line. When something crosses it, they say no, calm, direct, and with no explanation. Some people don't like it or feel uncomfortable, but something important happens. They go home with their energy intact. No replaying conversations, no overthinking, and no quiet resentment building up. They are lighter because they are not divided inside. That is the difference. One person is liked but internally fragmented. The other is not always liked but internally stable. Now be honest. Which one is actually free? This is where most people hesitate, because they think being disliked means losing everything: connection, opportunity, and belonging. But look at your own life. Has saying yes to everything actually protected you? Or has it slowly made you smaller, less visible, less respected, and less clear? Because here's the truth most people avoid. When you never push back, people stop checking where your limits are. They assume you don't have any. And when you don't have boundaries, you don't get more respect. You get more demand. That is a trade, approval in exchange for pressure. And over time, that pressure becomes your normal. So when you hear the courage to be disliked, don't hear rejection. Hear separation. Separation between what is yours and what is not. Your job is not to be liked by everyone. Your job is to live in alignment with what is true for you, and that will create friction, not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're no longer playing the role people got comfortable with. That discomfort you feel when you imagine saying no, that is not danger. That is unfamiliar freedom. Let that land, because this is the shift. You are not trying to become fearless. You are trying to become honest. And honesty is a cost. Some people will misunderstand you, pull back, or test you. But something else happens. You start trusting yourself again. And once that starts, everything changes. Your decisions get clearer, your energy stabilizes, and your presence becomes stronger. Not louder, stronger. Because you are no longer split between what you feel and what you show. So ask yourself this: are you trying to be respected, or are you trying to be liked? Because those two paths do not lead to the same life. And at some point, you will have to choose. There's a system running your life, quiet, fast, and automatic. Most people never see it. They just feel the results. Stress, resentment, and exhaustion that doesn't make sense. But if you slow it down, you'll see the pattern. It always starts the same way: a moment, a message, a request, or favor. That's the trigger. And almost instantly, your body reacts. Not your thoughts, but your body. A slight tension in your chest, a drop in your energy, a subtle resistance. That's your signal. But here's what happens next. You don't stay with it. You move away from it fast, because right after that signal, an urge shows up, The urge to smooth things over, avoid discomfort, and keep things easy. It feels urgent, like you need to respond now before things get awkward or the silence stretches too long. So you act. You say yes. Maybe not loudly or confidently, but you say it. And the moment you do, something shifts. Relief, small, immediate, and noticeable. The tension drops. The situation feels handled, and you avoided conflict. So your brain saves it. Next time, do the same. That is a loop. Trigger, urge, action, relief, reinforcement. And then it repeats again and again. Now, here's the part people miss. The relief is real, but it's temporary, because a few hours later, or maybe that night, fatigue shows up. You think about what you agreed to, feel the weight of it, and start replaying the moment. Why did I say yes? Why didn't I just say no? That feeling is the cost. But by the time you feel it, the decision is already locked in, so nothing changes. And the next time the trigger appears, your brain remembers the relief, not the cost. That's how the loop survives. Not because it's good for you, but because it's fast and your environment keeps feeding it. Work rewards flexibility. People praise reliability, and social circles value easy personalities. So every time you say yes, you get reinforced from the outside too. Thank you. You're the best. I knew I could count on you. And that feels good for a moment, but it locks the pattern deeper. Now you're not just avoiding discomfort. You're chasing approval. Avoid pain. Gain approval. That is one of the strongest conditioning loops your brain can build. So of course it repeats and feels automatic. You're not just changing a habit. You're interrupting a system that has been running for years, maybe decades. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. This system reshapes your identity. You become the person who always says yes, who is always available, and who doesn't push back. And once that identity forms, people stop asking who you are. They assume, expect, and rely on that version of you. So even when you feel the strain, you hesitate, because changing now feels like breaking something, disappointing people, or becoming someone else. But look closer. You're not becoming someone else. You're removing what was never you. That version of you is built on reaction, avoidance, and silent agreements, not on truth. And this is the part most people avoid, because it's easier to blame the situation, the job, or the people. But the real pattern is internal. It's the 5 seconds between the trigger and your response. That's where everything happens. That's where you either repeat the loop or interrupt it. And right now, if you're honest, you don't feel like you have control there. It feels automatic and scripted. But it's not fixed, it's trained, which means it can be retrained. But not by thinking differently, by responding differently in that exact moment. So let me ask you something. The next time that tension shows up, that small internal no, what are you going to do with it? Ignore it like you always have, or finally treat it like it matters. Because that moment is not small. That moment is your entire life in miniature. Pause for a second. Don't just listen to this. Answer it. Are you actually seeing yourself in this pattern? Or are you just nodding along like this is about someone else? This is where most people drift. They agree with everything and then change nothing. Be honest. How many times have you had this realization before and told yourself, I need to stop doing this, only to do the same thing again when the next request comes in? So this is the real question. Are you willing to feel a little discomfort to stop living like this? Or are you going to keep choosing temporary relief over long-term self-respect? Because in a few minutes, you're going to know exactly what to do. But none of it works if you stay in observation mode. This only works if you decide to interrupt the pattern the next time it happens. So decide now, are you just watching this, or are you actually done living this way? So now you see the pattern. And this is where most people make a mistake. They try to change everything at once. Be more confident, be more assertive, fix their entire personality. That doesn't work. Because the problem is not your personality, it's the moment, that small window between pressure and response. So we're going to keep this simple. 3 shifts. The first one is this, the pause. Not a long pause, nothing dramatic. 2 seconds. That's it. The next time someone asks you for something, don't answer immediately. Let the question land and feel your body, because your body knows before your mind does. Tight chest, drop in energy, subtle resistance. That's your signal. But normally, you ignore it and move straight into response mode. So we interrupt that with silence. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable. Your brain will panic and tell you to say something to avoid the awkwardness. That voice is the old pattern. Let it talk. You don't have to obey it. 2 seconds is all it takes to move from reaction to awareness. And once you see it, you have a choice. Remember this line. If it's not a clear yes, it's a no. Think about your last few decisions. How many of them were a clear yes? Exactly. Now the second shift, stop explaining. This one is harder than it sounds because explaining feels polite and responsible, like the right thing to do. But look closer. Most of the time, you're not explaining to inform. You're explaining to soften your no and avoid their reaction. So you add details like, I'm really busy right now, or maybe another time, and what happens? They push back, negotiate, and find a way around your explanation because you left the door open. So now you're stuck. Either you keep explaining or you give in. That's the trap. So we remove it. You don't need a long sentence. You need a clear one. I can't do that. I'm not available. That doesn't work for me. And then you stop. Silence again. No justification. No extra detail. And yes, it will feel uncomfortable. You will feel exposed because you're not hiding behind logic anymore. You're standing on a decision. The more you explain, the less your no is respected. The clearer you are, the stronger it lands. Short, direct, done. Let them react. That part is not yours. Which brings us to the third shift, separation. Right now, you treat other people's reactions like your responsibility. If they're uncomfortable, you feel guilty. If they're disappointed, you feel like you did something wrong. So you try to fix it by adjusting or softening. But that's not your job. Your task is simple. Say what is true. Their task is separate. They can accept it, question it, or not like it. That belongs to them, not you. Let that sink in. Most of your stress comes from mixing these two. You speak, and then you try to control their reaction. That's impossible, and it keeps you stuck. So we draw the line. Your honesty is your responsibility. Their feelings are theirs. This will feel wrong at first, but this is where your freedom starts. Think about a simple moment. A friend asks for your time when you're already drained. Old pattern. You say yes, show up, and feel resentful. New pattern. You pause, feel the resistance, and say, I can't today. They might be surprised or push a little, but you stay still. No explanation. No retreat. And then something new happens. The moment passes. You didn't collapse. You didn't lose everything. And you didn't break the relationship. You just held your ground. That's the rep. So don't overcomplicate this. You need 3 things. Pause. Clarity. Separation. That's it. And here's the real challenge. You won't remember all of this in the moment. You'll feel pressure and urgency. So keep one line in your head. I'll get back to you. That line buys you space, and space gives you control. Use it. The goal here is not perfection. You will still say yes sometimes, and you will still slip. That's not failure. That's part of rewiring. The goal is awareness. That's how identity changes. In small, repeated act of honesty. So the next time that moment shows up, don't rush. Don't perform. Pause. Check in. And then choose like your life actually belongs to you. Now slow down for a moment. No advice, no fixing. Just look at your life as it actually is, not how you justify it. Think about your last few weeks. How many of those conversations and decisions were honest? Not polite or strategic. Honest. If the answer is low, then whose life are you actually living? Because when your words are filtered, your life becomes filtered. You reshape your reality to keep things smooth. And over time, you stop recognizing yourself. You become someone who is always fine, okay, and flexible, even when you're not, especially when you're not. When was the last time you felt fully aligned with what you said and what you did? No second guessing, no replaying the conversation later. Just clean, direct, and true. If that feels rare, that's a pattern. And patterns have consequences. You start feeling disconnected, unclear, and stuck, even if everything looks functional on the surface. Underneath, you're carrying unspoken frustration and unreleased tension, and it builds quietly. Now ask yourself, if nothing changes, what does your life look like in 5 years? Do you feel lighter or more trapped? More like yourself or less? Be honest, because this is about direction. Every time you say yes when you mean no, you are choosing a direction. And those choices add up into a life. So here's the question most people avoid. What is this costing you? Your energy, your time, your clarity, and your self-respect. Self-respect is not a belief. It's a pattern built to what you allow and what you don't. And right now, you've been allowing too much because it feels easier in the moment. But easy has a price, and you've been paying it quietly for a long time. If you keep showing up this way, who do you become? More grounded or more dependent on approval? At some point, this stops being about behavior and becomes identity. And once it reaches that level, it's not just uncomfortable, it's limiting. This doesn't break your life all at once. It's quieter than that. You lose a little time, a little energy, and a little clarity daily. And because each concession feels manageable, you let it go. You tell yourself you'll fix it later, but later never comes because the pattern is still running. And over time, those small moments stack into a life that doesn't feel like yours. You wake up tired because none of it felt chosen. It's not the workload that drains you. It's the lack of ownership, the sense that your time and decisions are being shaped by something outside of you. The longer that continues, the harder it becomes to reverse because you normalize the tension and the silence. And once something feels normal, you stop questioning it. That's the real risk. That things stay the same for years and that agreeable, dishonest version of you becomes permanent. Every time you override yourself, you are not maintaining peace. You are weakening your position and delaying a cost you will have to pay later. At some point, this stops being about understanding and becomes a decision, a quiet one in real time. In the next moment someone asks something from you, discipline is not intensity, it's alignment. It's doing what is true even when it feels uncomfortable, especially then. Don't wait for confidence. Act with clarity. Small, direct, and honest. That's enough. The next time that tension shows up, don't rush past it. Stay with it, and then choose based on what you actually want, not what avoids discomfort. This is how self-trust is rebuilt. In small, repeated acts where you stop abandoning yourself until something shifts. You stop asking, what will they think? And you start asking, is this right for me? That is a turning point where your energy and presence become clearer and stronger. You don't need to prove or explain yourself. You stand on your decisions and let them be enough. That is control over your response. And over time, people adjust. Some will respect you more. Some will pull back. But you are no longer easy to manage. You are clear, but none of that happens if you keep choosing comfort in the moment that matters. Every response is a vote for who you are becoming. Choose carefully, because in the end, this is not about saying no to others. It's about finally saying yes to your own life. If this hits something real for you, don't ignore it. Type, I choose myself in the comments. Subscribe if you're done living on autopilot and ready to build real self-respect. And today, not tomorrow, set one boundary. Just one. That's where this starts.